What's good? It's your guy, Rhett Butler. This is the Wash Strategist. I am the Wash Strategist, and welcome to Wash Strategist TV. Please do me a favor before we get into the festivities. Subscribe to the channel. If you hit that bell, I will bring you mail. Hit the notifications as well. We deliver brand strategy by the pound, cultural strategy as well. Everything involving storytelling, perception, positioning. This is where you come to get it, baby. And I'm going to give you that culture as well. But today we're talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart. I am a New York City native, born and raised, Harlem in the Bronx, all of that good stuff. And you know what it is. Bing bong. If you ain't know, we representing this over here. All right, New York Knicks did the damn thing. 2026 NBA champions. We got a chip back in New York, baby. Yo, it's been since 1973, man. So we excited. I know y'all getting tired of us talking a lot, doing a lot, but you got to understand, yo, this has been a long time coming for us, and we are very, very thankful and happy to have the chip in the garden yet again. But let's get into it. I want you guys to understand what really is going on with this Knicks championship and what makes it so damn special. Outside of just Jalen Brunson and his amazingness. What makes the 2025 Knicks championship such a powerful cultural moment is that people are not experiencing it as a basketball story. We know that, right? This is transcendent, extremely transformational as well. They're experiencing the Knicks championship as a human story. The Knicks became a vessel for collective emotional projection. Say it again for those in the back. Collective emotional projection. Millions of people saw their own struggles, delays, disappointments, and persistence reflected in this team. That's why the championship transcended sports and became motivational. You know, I want to use a framework from story branding. It's the most interesting analysis I've seen thus far about this win. And the analysis is that the Knicks is not actually the hero. The fans are. You're the hero. I'm the hero. The people. Why are the people the hero? Well, using the story brand framework, the hero is the audience in relation to the Knicks championship win. The Knicks fan, the long-suffering New Yorker. Shout out to Spike Lee, the person who's been overlooked in the stands spending that bread. The entrepreneur whose breakthrough is taking too long. The employee who keeps getting passed over. We all understand that. And the artist who keeps creating despite rejection. The Knicks fans' desire wasn't simply, I want the Knicks to win. No, it was deeper than that. Their desire was, I want proof that persistence matters. That's what happened there. For decades, the Knicks represented frustration, failed seasons, bad ownership decisions, missed opportunities, playoff heartbreak. The fans' emotional problem became, what if all this loyalty was for nothing? The championship in 2026 answered that question. It was for something. It was just long suffering. The villain. I know it's easy to talk about Mr. Giraffe, Victor Wembanyama from France, but that actually was not the villain in this story. The villain, one word, hopelessness. The Spurs, not the villain. Leave them alone. Using the story brand framework, it says that competitors are rarely the villain. But the real villain was philosophical. It was an external problem, decades of losing, the internal strife within the organization, hopelessness felt by the fans, and that feeling that things will just never work out for us as the Knicks or as Knicks Kingdom. That's completely philosophical. Breaking that down even further, there was a belief that effort should eventually be rewarded. Eventually. 2026 was that time. The championship became proof that suffering by the Knicks fans was not meaningless. This is why people are crying. Nobody cries because a basketball team wins. That's a moment of joy, right? Remember Rudy? Remember Hoosiers? No, people cried in those moments because a story they believed about themselves was rewritten. That's what happened. Now we got to talk about another archetype in this story, and that's the guide. which is the New York Knicks organization. Shout out to James Dolan in this sense. The Knicks organization functioned as the guide, not because they were perfect. Oh, by no means is James Dolan perfect. Let Oakley back in the building, baby. But James Dolan and the Knicks demonstrated two story brand guide traits. One was empathy. Not for Oakley, but whatever. We know what disappointment feels like. So they understood where we were at as fans. The Knicks weren't some dynasty lecturing about fans winning. No, they had experienced decades of embarrassment. We were the laughingstock of the game. So that made the Knicks relatable to everybody. But now we have authority. We finally know how to win. We are the champions. Strategic front office moves and roster reconstruction, defensive identity, and culture ultimately cemented these facts. The Knicks organization became the guide because they had finally earned the credibility we've been seeking. Now we got to talk about Captain Clutch, aka the mentor archetype, Jalen Brunson. He's not the hero, but he is the mentor archetype. And this is where it gets very, very fascinating. You know, most people want to assume Jalen Brunson's the hero. We understand the storyline between him and his dad, Rick Brunson, and all of that. But he's not the hero. He's the mentor. That's fitting that he's the captain. He's the guide within the guide, right? Like, imagine Rocky, Mickey, right? Hey, Rocco, the Karate Kid's Mr. Miyagi. Yeah. And in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are the guys that put you together. These are your OGs. You know what I'm saying? But Bronson became the embodiment of a message. And that message is simple. You don't have to be the most naturally gifted person to become great. Brunson's story resonates because it attacks modern culture's obsession with talent. Jalen Brunson was never marketed as the chosen one. In fact, he was passed over time and time again. He was never marketed as an athletic marvel. Everybody talks about his height. And he was not marketed as a genetic phenomenon. He is not LeBron James. He is not Victor Wembanyama. But he has now become famous for discipline, preparation, and composure. Composure being the one thing his daddy said he loves about him. And he's accountable. Fans see themselves in Jalen Brunson. Not because they think they're NBA players. Oh, no, we don't want that smoke. But when you see Jalen Brunson, you think, well, if he can overcome doubts through preparation, maybe I can too. He looks relatable and he makes you believe in your own personal power. Now that's mentor energy completely. Jalen Brunson is the plan that the fans needed because every guide offers a plan, and Jalen Brunson had a strategic framework, if you will. Brunson's plan, though, was not verbal, right? Watch me work. It was behavioral. Let's go through the steps. Step 1, Jalen Brunson ignored the noise. He turns off social media. Step 2, Jalen Brunson has mastered the fundamentals. We all saw him as a child going through those drills outside in the heat. Step 3, Brunson always shows up because the lesson was not basketball. The lesson was maturity, and Brunson embodies that. We got to talk about the San Antonio Spurs. I know it's too easy to think of them as the villain, but they're not. They are the shadow hero. The Spurs occupy a fascinating role. Fascinating role. They were not villains. They were the shadow version of the hero, the younger challenger. You know, that team is hella young and they're going to have some years, but they're going to be a dynasty, I believe. They're the future. I mean, it was easy to see that they were in sync. They are the next generation. Shout out to Ron Harper's son. He's a problem. In mythology, this is often called the worthy rival, and they indeed were that. Their existence actually amplified the Knicks story. Without the Spurs, this championship win is not as meaningful. We can all admit that. They were a worthy rival. We got to talk about Victor Wembanyama, America's new most hated man. He is the chosen one archetype. Victor Wembanyama is the chosen one archetype. Brunson and Wembanyama represent opposite myths. With Brunson, you have the earned hero. He was undersized, overlooked, and developed, right? Practice made perfect for him. But Wembanyama is completely different. Think LeBron James. He was the destined hero. You can look at Wembanyama and tell what the NBA is going to do with him. They're going to franchise him. Extraordinarily unique, and he's predicted to be great. People are captivated by Wembanyama because he represents possibility. I always think of John Jones and what he did transformationally for the UFC by just existing in the UFC. People are inspired by Jalen Brunson because he represents agency. You understand that? Because there's a difference. But Wembanyama's presence sends a message, and it's simple. Look at what is possible. Conversely, Jalen Brunson's also has a message. Look at what is achievable. You see the difference? The second message is often more emotionally transformative, which is why Jalen Brunson is in all of our hearts in this very moment. Now, this moment became bigger than basketball, this 2026 championship run. The Knicks championship accidentally tapped into a cultural wound. We're living in an era where many people feel the following. Success is random, right? Algorithms decide everything. Connections matter more than effort. And people believe the game is rigged. How many people are saying there's a script around every championship run? However, the Knicks represented the opposite message. It's stay with it. Build patiently, even when you're counted out. Improvement compounds, compound interest, right? We're going banking terms on your ass. And persistence matters. That's why entrepreneurs shared Knicks content like me, content creators. That's why people who don't even watch sports shared Knicks content or are completely enraptured with the Knicks emotional narrative. You know, this championship became a metaphor for life, to be honest. But to go deeper, here's the real story brand breakdown. The hero, let's recap it. The person trying to keep believing, which are the fans, the entrepreneur, the dreamer, the overlooked worker. Who was the villain? Don't say Victor Wembanyama, because it's not him. Hopelessness, cynicism, the belief that effort doesn't matter. Who was the guide? You know who it is, even though you want to reluctantly say it and admit it. It's James Dolan and the Knicks organization, that whole squad, right? A flawed but experienced mentor that finally learned how to win. And now to the great part. The mentor within the guide. Jalen Captain Clutch Brunson. He is now the living proof that preparation can overcome doubt. The shadow hero. Victor Wembanyama. I mean, it is what it is. He's now being treated villainous, but he's the shadow hero. He represents the future. He represents the NBA's next potential and the next chapter of the league. It is what it is. The success of this moment is believing that persistence is still worthwhile. What would have been a failure in this moment is if we as the fans accepted cynicism as the truth of the Knicks' reality. And it's not that. You know, as a branding strategist, the deeper lesson is that the Knicks did not win because they had the best story. That's too simple. No, the Knicks won because millions of people used the Knicks to tell themselves a better story about their own lives. They're a vessel. Now, that is the highest form of branding, and that's something that you cannot create out of thin air. It has to be serendipitous. A brand stops being a product or a team or a company when it becomes a framework through which people interpret their own lived experiences. The Knicks championship became a cultural permission slip for people to believe that delayed success is still success. That's why it felt transformational rather than merely victorious. And we, the Knicks faithful, we are the champions of the world. My name is Red Butler. Thank you for watching The Watch Strategist. Please, again, if you haven't already, subscribe, hit that notification button, and more than anything, please let me know what you think about what I just said. I wanted to break this down so we all understood the emotional resonance that's happening right now in this moment, which I'm going to cherish forever, and hopefully you will too. All right? Peace.